Okay. Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. My name is Lars Eichstädt, and in this tutorial video I want to show you how to set up Symphonic Orchestra in FL Studio. So this video is part of a tutorial series on Symphonic Orchestra. For more information about this tutorial series, you can visit the Facebook page or also browse through the videos in this YouTube channel. In this tutorial series I show ways and techniques how to make the sound library sound more realistic. Okay, so before you start to set up anything inside FL Studio, make sure that you copied the Play VST DLL into your VST plugins folder. If you're unsure which folder that is, you can go to Options, File Settings, and there is the VST plugins extra search folder. So make sure that you copied the DLL into that folder. Alright, so then we right click on one of the slots, and then we choose either using Insert or Replace, choose More, and then click down to refresh Fast Scan. Then we get here Play listed as a new plugin. FL Studio also tells us one new plugin was found. We click the little checkbox so that we have the F symbol right here, and then we load it in that instrument. Very quickly, what that dialog actually is, if you don't know it, it's basically the dialog where you can select what which instruments you want to have in your list when you load in new instruments. So you can uncheck everything that you have here when you have something that you don't need, or you have some, in my case I have Harmor or Poison demo versions and I don't use the demo versions, so I unchecked the boxes right here, and then they disappeared. Sometimes quite good. Okay, so then after you checked the box for play, let's close the dialog, and then we load in play. There it is, as usual as any other instrument. Sometimes when you open it up the first time, it can sometimes take a little while. Okay, so then here it is. One quick tip here: if you don't really know how the interface of Symphonic Orchestra works, you can watch the overview video I did on this library, and you learn also how the library is organized. That could help you to better understand what we're doing in a minute. Okay, so now let's load in a couple of instruments. So go to the browser, and there why not, choose the basses, slaps. Oh, I forgot to put in the dongle. One quick moment. Diese scheiß Blase vielleicht mal weg. Okay, so there I put the dongle in, and we are ready to continue. So go to the browser view and choose, for example, the basses. Then the cellos. And last thing, the violas, for example. Okay. So now we have the problem then that when we set up play like this, we get only access to the instrument that has the MIDI channel number 1. So in order to be able to get control to the other instruments, we have to use a plugin inside of FL Studio, the so-called MIDI Out Plugin. When we take a look now at Play, we see that Play loaded us in all our instruments in the Omni mode. Using this mode, you can also get access to the other instruments here, the basses, the cellos and the violas, but most of the time you want maximum control over every patch that you load in. So what we do here first, if Play sets us everything as Omni, we select our MIDI channels, and after setting it up, we then now load in this plugin here, the MIDI Out plugin. So this plugin here is designed to communicate with the Play engine using the MIDI channels. So what we will do right now is copying this MIDI Out plugin as many times as patches we loaded in here, and then using the different MIDI channel numbers in the different MIDI Out plugins, we can then get access to the other instruments here as well, like the cellos and the violas, and have everything in separate tracks. Okay, so to do this, we first of all configure this MIDI Out plugin so that we have the configuration that is needed to get the communication between Play and the MIDI Out plugin, and then we will just duplicate the MIDI outs so we don't have to configure every plugin every time again. So first of all, what we have to do is choose a port number for the MIDI Out plugin and for the Play engine. So using the port number, we make a connection between the MIDI Out plugin and the Play engine. So we choose port number 1 with holding down the left mouse button and drag it up or down, so we can make any port number we want, but we drag it up to port number 1. Okay, so now we have to give the Play engine the input port here. So when the MIDI Out plugin sends a signal from its output port 1, it goes into the input port of Play. So when the two ports have the same number, then there's a connection between the MIDI Out and the Play engine, or Symphonic Orchestra. To do this, we click on this little gear wheel right here and get into this dialog right here. We have these 3 tabs right here at the top. If you don't see that window here, you have one of the other tabs selected. You then click on the Settings tab here, and then you get into this dialog here. So here we have the input port number. Here we also drag it up, holding the left mouse button, input port number 1. So now we have a connection between this MIDI Out plugin and the Play engine. So we go out of that menu, and when we now play something here with the MIDI Out plugin, we then can hear that we control the basses. If we increase the channel number now, let's say to 2, we can then get access to the violas. And same, oh no, sorry, the cellos were the cellos. And at channel number 3, there are the violas. And like this, you can get access to all of the instruments. So what we'll do now is decrease the channel number to 1 again. And before we duplicate the MIDI Out plugins 2 times more, we configure 2 of these knobs here for later MIDI automation of 2 control changes, the CC1 for modulation and CC11 for expression. Don't worry if you don't know by now for what these MIDI control changes are for. During the tutorial series we will use them a lot, and basically they're needed to create the realism that's needed. They are one part of the realism. better say. Alright, so right click on the knob and say configure. Then we have the full name and the short name. You can type in the full name. In our example, we will first set up modulation. So we can type in the full name modulation wheel and in the short name mod. The short name is the name that is shown in this little box underneath the knob. It's actually not necessary to fill in the full name field. You can do it if you want to, but you don't have to. Okay, so then let's choose the controller number CC1, and then with pressing enter or return we can toggle through the different fields, and then once more enter, we get out of this dialog. And actually there should be a name right here. We can go in it once more. Okay, for a strange reason it didn't accept it, so we choose the one again and click on accept, and then now we see there is a mod assigned to that knob. We do the same thing for the second knob. Right click configure for the expression. So now I skip the full name field and only use the short name because that's the only thing that is showed that we can see. And then choose the control number 11 and accept, and then we now have modulation and expression for later use all set up. Yeah, and now the last thing that we have to do is click close play and go right click clone these MIDI outs 2 times. Then we give them the unique channel numbers. So this one is channel number 2 and this MIDI out channel number 3. And last thing, rename them using right click bases, or you can also hold down the shift key and left click on the name, and you can then rename them as well. I prefer that method because it's faster. Okay, and now if everything was right, we can now, when we click on the violas and play something, get the violas, here the cellos, and here the basses. Okay, so one last thing that we want to make a quick look is how to use multiple instances, because very often you need more than one instance, because the 60 MIDI channels can be used very, very quickly, and you are running out of channels then, and you have to use another instance. Well, it's very simple. You just use another port number for the other instance. So for quick demonstration, we will insert another one. Choose so we have a better contrast in the difference. Choose from the percussion metals the glockenspiel. Load it in. Then we clone this MIDI Out plugin, rename it to glockenspiel. Oops. So, alright. Then, hey, what's that? Don't want this. Okay, so, what we then do now is we have the glockenspiel in the second play instance has a channel number 1. So we go to the glockenspiel MIDI Out, give them channel number 1, and then we increase the port number to 2, for example. Then we now have to make the connection to the play, to this play instance, and so we click on the gear wheel and choose input port number 2. And then we have the glockenspiel in here. You can already see when I click here the MIDI Out keys here, that the keys here are also already moving, so the connection is made. We only have to go now to the room where the white keys are, and there's the glockenspiel. So that's how you set up Symphonic Orchestra inside of Play. That's how you use multiple instances, and that's it for that video. Hopefully I see you in the upcoming videos, and goodbye. Okay. Doo-doo. Hello.